Malik B sat down with this podcast called TFU and spoke about his issues with Brendan Schaub. So finally, on the record, we've got Malik B commentating or talking about what happened with him and Brendan. I think most of us that are plugged in, most of us that are aware of the Bappaverse, most of us that saw the whole thing play out, know what happened, right? We know they butted heads a lot. We know that probably Brendan saw Malik as a bad influence on Chappelle because Chappelle and Malik used to kind of laugh in front of and behind Brendan's back. Some of the stuff he said incorrectly and just generally how much of a redact Brendan is. We all know Brendan isn't, at that time he was a comedian. Now he's not, but still, we all know that Brendan's not the most thick-skinned when it comes to jokes on his behalf. He doesn't really take it too well. He kind of, maybe because he feels as if like, if he's not laughing, he kind of feels like he's being laughed at. Maybe because if he doesn't understand certain jokes, it kind of gets under his skin. Maybe the fact that he doesn't really have any good clapbacks kind of makes him feel insecure. Maybe because, Malik is an unapologetically black guy and Brendan's got a bit of a complex with black people, which I don't think this, I don't know where this comes from. I'm just making it out of my ass. I'm just talking out my ass. I'm just talking out my earlobes. I'm just talking out of my nose. But I've always had the feeling that Brendan's got a little bit of a thing against black people, mostly because of his failed football career. I know that sounds weird, but I honestly think something to do with his failed football career and the fact that maybe he felt like somebody in front of him was picked because of their race or because of their athleticism and not because they were actually good at football. I think it's given him a little bit of a hatred towards the melanated people. So I think he carries that into different interactions. There are some people that go as far as saying that Brendan might have an issue with black people based on Slow Joe and her history, right? Slow Joe allegedly before Brendan was dating a bunch of black people, most famously that baseball player called Pugh, how you pronounce it. And maybe Brendan has a little bit of a complex of like, remembering or thinking about what that might look like and his woman getting dealt with black people. Who knows? Or it could just been simply two personalities clashing. It could have been simply that. It could have been simply Brendan and Malik personalities clashing, not getting along. Either way, we know that towards the end, Brendan was, I would say, like kind of workplace bullying Malik, kind of making him feel stupid, singling him out a little bit. And obviously Chappelle Lacey, is a little bit of a little bit of a coconut, right? Chappelle Lacey is also a little bit of a coconut, a little bit spineless. So he also didn't defend or step in for Malik at that time. And then in the end, ended up kind of playing out the way it played out. Malik got fired and it kind of went to shit. And if I'm not mistaken, Malik's firing on TFATK was funny because at the same time Malik got fired, he also fell out with his other podcast co-host because that podcast co-host was a part of Thick Boy. There was this other weird looking guy. He kind of looked like a turtle. There was all these weird kind of people that were orbiting Brendan, getting money off him, that were also kind of threw Malik under the bus. So Chappelle kind of didn't defend Malik or stand by him and threw him under the bus. And this other black guy who Malik was doing a podcast with also kind of threw Malik under the bus in favor of Brendan. And they all ended up for leaving as well. So I do find that kind of funny how that played out. But black people and letting white people get in the middle of them. It's the story as old as time. Black people letting fucking white people get in the middle of them is story as old as time. Anyway, let's hear Malik B explain how it played out, why him and Brendan fell out in his own words, and now of course add commentary. It's a 2-minute 50 clip. 2-minute 50-second clip. I'm going to add loads of commentary and I'm going to pause it a bunch. So if you want to watch it yourself, all right, because some of you motherfuckers really do get on my fucking nerves with this fucking, you're talking too much and interrupting. Motherfucker. If you want to watch it yourself, this is their account. TFU Podcast. Look, that's the fucking account there. TFU Podcast _XX. TFU Podcast PODCAST _XEXE. You can watch the thing yourself. Scroll through their feed, find a clip, play it to your heart's leisure. I'm going to be pausing it. I'm going to be playing it. I'm going to be pausing it. I'm going to be yapping. I'm going to be playing it. I'm going to be playing it. I'm going to be pausing it. I'm going to be yapping. Okay? Please, for the love of God, be patient with me. I know it's annoying, but this is part of what you do on a live stream commentary sort of show. You yap and you add commentary to an already short clip and make it longer because you love the sound of your own voice. I can't help it. I'm sorry. I apologize. Okay? Cool. Let's go.
Brendan Schaub saw we would do shows in COVID, and he saw how I was Brian Callen's homie, and he had Chappelle Lacey. So he was like, let's just bring both of these black guys on the show and just see like what can we do. And he brought me on.
He misses a lot of context there. He missed a very important part of context there, a very important bit of context. He only brought them two on the show because Brian Callen at that point had been counseled for rape. Brian Callen had been accused of rape and other sexual harassment, assault things. They tried to bring Brian Callen back to do a show under a different name because I think the sponsors were like, oh, we're not going to let him do TFATK. So they tried to do it firing the kids or something like that. Then they tried to do the show behind a Patreon paywall. The sponsors still didn't have it, or still said if you have him on the show or you just sit next to him, we're not going to sponsor your show anymore. These guys, especially Brendan, lives and dies by sponsors. Without sponsors, he probably, would have to get a regular job. So he kind of booted Brian, told him to sit on the sidelines for a bit, then brought in Malik and Chappelle to cover for Brian whilst he was going through the whole cancellation. Then as soon as the coast was clear and the cancellation was finished, Malik by that time already had left. Chappelle, Lacey was already doing his thing. Little by little, he left, and then Brian came back.
On the show on Fighter and the Kids, I kind of replaced my mentor, and it was going great. Us three, it was Fighter and the Kids with a Z. Things happened on that tour where I feel like, okay, Brendan Schaub is a UFC fighter, champion, right? He was a fighter. He's
not a champion. He was never a champion, never got close to being a champion. He likes to say he was a top 10 fighter, but he's actually a top 15, which is a really strange lie, isn't it? It's a really strange lie because being a top 15 UFC heavyweight is still an incredible achievement. I know that some people on the Reddit who are really going through with a fine-tooth comb with autistic detail. There are some people on the Reddit, big up the TFATK Reddit, that are going through Brendan Schaub's fight career in autistic detail, and somebody on the Reddit made a really strong argument that Brendan Schaub's even top 15 ranking is heavily inflated and isn't really accurate of his skill set because of the time that he came up during heavyweights, the people that he fought and the run that he went on, the form of the other fighters when they were coming up. So there's loads of mitigating circumstances that basically say that if he came up in any other era, he would not be even close to top 20. There are some people that argue that, but I don't think that's fair. I think you play with the cards that you're dealt with. He came up at the time that he came up in. He did what he did at the time. Being top 15 should be an incredible achievement. You should be super proud because if you're top 15 heavyweight in the UFC, imagine what you must be with the general population. You know what I mean? You must be able to kill with your bare hands most people. So the fact that he still isn't happy, the fact that he still is not content with top 15, has to lie and say top 10, just goes to prove how insecure he is, how big that hole is inside of him that he needs to fill with these fucking lies, and just how much of a pathological liar this guy is. Because being top 15 is still an amazing achievement, but it's not enough. I have to say I'm top 10. But he was never champion. He was top 15 heavyweight.
Trying to be doing stand-up. I'm a fighter and I'm doing stand-up. Right? So it's like when you have similar paths and then you're the headliner, but your jokes don't match the guy that is above you, of course jealousy comes.
I would agree with this. Again, I wish I could find a clip. Maybe once I get settled in my new place, maybe I'll settle down and I'll go through it with autistic detail. I used to find a clip. There's a clip of the Fire and the Kid where Brian Callen introduces Malik to Brendan for the first time. It's an episode of TFATK. Maybe it's when Brendan's wearing like a yellow flannel. I need to find a clip anyway. They're sitting down on TFATK, they're talking, and Brian mentions his opener, Malik. You know how Brian is with like men. He talks about their physique and how big they are and how strong and ripped and stuff. And I think at that time, Malik was boxing quite a lot. He was involved in Floyd Mayweather's camp and stuff like. So he's got some accolades. I think he fought to a really good level, to be honest, right? So Brian's talking really highly of Malik, glazing him. And obviously Brendan doesn't take that too well because he's the only one's dick who wants to be sucked in that room. And then Brian tells Chin to bring up Malik's Instagram. Because I think at that time Malik was known for always walking around with his top off. And then Malik's Instagram comes up on the screen and Brendan's got a face like thunder. Just like hating. So I think Brendan's always hated this guy from the minute one. He maybe tolerated him for a bit because of TFAT, covering for TFATK. But I remember that clip. I remember Brendan like looking at Malik on the screen and having a face full of hate. So I think Brendan has always hated this guy. Then when he came on the show and he started to kiki, hee, ha, ha, LMAFAO, rolfing all over the place with Chappelle, laughing at Brendan and all the fucking mispronunciations he was doing, I think it kind of sent him over the edge. But I think Brendan, from the minute he saw Malik, always hated him because of what he looked like, because of his background, because of how much Brian was glazing him. Brendan was never a fan of Malik. That's my theory. He was never a fan.
So it was kind of like a little friction here and there. So one day he said, Malik, I need you to sign the NDA. I said, why?
Well, yeah, weird.
This whole time. He was like, bro, everybody signs an NDA who I work with. Theo.
So in the middle of them working together, he just springs an NDA on him. That's strange, isn't it? I'll be a bit perturbed by that too. I think the NDA would have made more sense when they first signed because of the whole Brian Callen cancellation thing, right? That would have made more sense. But signing an NDA just as they're going in the middle, out of nowhere, what are you trying to make me not say?
Vaughn, Brian Callen, everybody signs an NDA. I said, well, why? We've been working for 7 months. Why do I need to sign the NDA? He said, if you don't sign the NDA, you just can't come back. I said, okay, cool. He had Chappelle go to my house, look for me, because nobody heard from me. I was like, man, I'm not signing an NDA. And then I was like, to the point where I was like, bro, let me just call him. I was like, bro, I'm not signing an NDA. He was like, fucking why? All the shit I did for you? I was like, did really?
Whoa. Don't get me wrong. I think it's kind of, I won't say cowardly. Well, you can't hear it. What do you mean audio? Is it audio is king? He says can't. Can you not hear it? Is that why you say audio is king? Can you not hear the clip? Can you not hear the clip? Don't make me paranoid. Is the clip okay or not? Yeah, it's loud. I think you're just being a little bit annoying. People, I'm not gonna be honest. That's one of my trolls I don't like. It's one of the trolls I think is a bit lame and a bit gay. There's two trolls I don't like. The first troll I don't like is when you're watching a football stream. You're watching a stream, right? You're watching a stream on like one of those illegal football streams, and the stream goes down. And you know the streams have those chats. They usually have a chat box. You know what I'm talking about? If you're watching an illegal sports stream, they usually have a chat box on the side. When the stream goes down, there's always somebody in the chat box that's like, "Oh, so and so team scored. So and so team scored. They scored. He scored." They always do that in those fucking streams. They love to do so and so team scored as a troll. And the other troll that I hate as well is when you're doing a live stream and somebody in the comments will be like, "Oh, the audio's muted. Audio muted. Audio muted." It's like, how old are you? You're probably over the age of 25 years old. Now, are you okay? Audio muted. Audio muted. It's so fucking lame. It's so childish, you know? All the time. Fucking someone scored and audio is fucking muted. Anyway, what did you say? Video is a bit low. Yeah, that's not my fault. That's obviously the clip itself. The clip video is a bit low. It is what it is. We'll make do with what's available though.
Yo, you pay, bro. I give you $3,000 a month. I say, yeah, but you say you give Brian Callen $15,000.
I like you, Malik. Malik, I like you. I think you're a very funny guy. I like Malik. I like Malik's skits, to be honest. They're like, you could say maybe they're in the same vein as Drewski, but it's very, very much his own sense of humor. I like that his skits, although you could say they're kind of like Drewski, they're not. He does his own thing with his comedy skits. Funny guy. He's got his own lane. I'm a fan of what he does. I remember I watched a bit of his stand-up. I didn't mind it too much. It's a bit corny. It's a little bit laced with too much racial stuff and whatever it makes to be like. Black people be like, white people be like, white girls be like, black girls be like, whatever. But he's got a lane. He's got a lane. He's fucking smoking meth here. He's smoking fucking meth. Because Brian Callen gets paid 15, what's that got to do with you? What's Brian Callen getting $15,000 got to do with you? Of course he's getting 15. He's the fucking founder of one of the people that started the fucking show. You're a person that's covering him whilst he's going through his fucking rape cancellation. What does 15 grand that he gets got to do with your 3 grand? Really and truly. Maybe if Brendan was being fair, he'd give you 5. Maybe if Brendan was being fair, he'd round it up and he'd give you 5 grand. But I don't see how Malik thinks it makes any sense that he should be getting as much as Brian was getting when it's Brian's show. Don't get me wrong. Brendan doesn't act like it's Brian's show. Let's make that for sure, right? Brendan does not act like it is Brian's show. Brendan does not act like it is Brendan's show. He definitely makes it feel like it's his show. Brendan makes it feel like it's his show, and he kind of employs Brian, right? He gives him a salary. But they both started the show together. Of course he should be getting 15. Now, the funny thing is, what Malik B is saying here makes it more legit, in my opinion, that figure. Remember BGL when we didn't believe him? Or I believed him anyway, but some of you guys didn't believe him. Remember some of you guys in the stream chat didn't believe it when BGL said that Brian Callen was getting 25K or something like that. When BGL leaked that in news. I believe BGL now. I believe Mark Harley. I believe Mr. Harley. I believe him because he said 25 recently, right? When he recently got fired, the figure that he heard that Brian Callen was getting per month from TFATK was 25 grand. Back then, before BGL joined, Malik said that Brian Callen was getting 15,000. Now, I don't know how the Fire and the Kid are able to generate that much money to pay those type of salaries. but it kind of explains to you why this show hasn't died, innit? Because think about it now. Think about it. If Brian Callen was getting 15 back then, BGL says Brian Callen was getting 25 when he was there. If they're going through a bad period now, the views are not good, the show quality's gone to shit. They may or may not have been. I think they got re-signed to Podcast One, to be fair. I think some of you guys were a little bit, you know what I mean? Were hasty with your cancellation. I do think they re-signed a deal with Podcast One. I don't think it's the same deal before with the same terms, but I do think they managed to re-sign with Podcast One. So they re-signed with Podcast One, probably don't have as many ads. I would still say Brian Callen probably walks away with 10 grand from the show. You know that? I think Brian Callen still walks away with $10,000 from this show still, which is still crazy to make. It's still fucking crazy that they're able to pay Brian Callen 10 grand a month. It kind of goes to show, in my opinion. It kind of goes to show. What are you guys saying here? The phone is, well, this is a few years in LA doing snow, and now all of her friends are gone and the phone is dry. Pocket watching terrible business move. He's fighting the kid, not fighting Malik. Exactly, Koila. Rinks took a long paid vacation around that time. Exactly, fuck Toronto today. He could have pod with the BGL. Yep.
I said, bro, I'm doing all the work. We're doing all the work. I was like, bro, that's like, I told him, like, I feel like I'm on a plantation. That's what I told him.
Damn.
Told him just like that. Told him just like.
Okay, that's a bit much. That's a bit much. I feel like I'm in a plantation. That's a bit much. But I think that also was around the time where everyone was talking about paying podcasting, I think. To be fair to Malik, I think that's also around the same time that people were like having that debate about podcasts and how much you should get paid. And there's a big sort of conversation around that. I think he overshot and overestimated his importance. It's Brendan and Brian's show. It's Brendan and Brian's show. They should be making the lion's share of the money. You know? They should be making the lion's share of the money. I don't see what he was talking about there.
Like that. You know, all my discussions, all my beliefs, all my opinions are about this time George Floyd movement. We can't talk about it because your audience is middle of America and you have two black guys and we got to cancel that out. He was like, people don't come to the podcast and listen for that. But you got two people on there that kind of like, you know, that affects us. So he was like, all right, well, don't come back. I won't come back. I have my own podcast, Cutting Weight. So he took all my friends. They just stayed with Brendan Schaub. All the comedy shows I had.
That's kind of that. To be fair, Malik should blame himself as well a little bit. Like, why did all your friends choose Brendan? If Brendan's obviously the cunt in this group, right? Let's make it. I think Brendan would also admit that Brendan's obviously the douchebag in the group. He's definitely the cunt in the group. Why did they all pick Brendan over him? Mostly because of the money, I'm assuming. I don't think it was much, but Brendan was paying still. This was the era where he was making a lot of money. He was paying to have friends, essentially, right? With the exception of his brother in that picture down below, Big J in the yellow, Brendan was probably paying everyone to hang out. So maybe they picked him because of that. But maybe also some of them, although Brendan's a fucking douchebag, maybe some of them, weirdly, enjoyed Brendan's company more than Malik's. So Malik should take a little bit of responsibility for the fact that all these friends picked Brendan over him.
Around here, LA, blackball.
Damn, they blackballed you?
Every show I couldn't. He'd have Brendan Schaub and friends at the Hollywood Improv. I would go up at the Hollywood Improv. Next thing you know, I send my veils in, no, nothing.
That's crazy if true. I don't believe that's true, to be fair. That's insane. Brendan had the pull. Brendan had the influence to fucking blackball Malik like this. By the way, he needs to answer to his questions. He needs to talk about this, by the way, because this is kind of fucked up. You can have your problems with somebody, you can have your beef with somebody, but going in affecting their pockets, going in affecting the way that they make money is really down dirty. That's really scumbag shit. I don't believe it off back, to be honest, because I think Brendan's influence in comedy, even back then, wasn't as big as it was now. No, wasn't as big as ever. I don't think Brendan had that kind of pull. I really don't. But who knows? Maybe it's true. Maybe there is. Maybe some of these smaller clubs where Brendan was doing a lot more shows, he was kind of the main draw. Maybe. I don't know. But it doesn't really make sense that Brendan had the ability to get this guy not booked in certain clubs. Like, what? Really? With his unfunny ass, with the way that he is as a personality. There were people in the comedy scene industry that were willing to like block another comedian, not give him any avails, not give him any stage time. I don't know. I don't know if I believe that. But if it is true, Brendan should answer for it. He's not going to answer for it because he's a fucking coward. but he should fucking answer for this and talk about why he blocked, because the other stuff where how they fell out, I don't have a problem with it. I don't have a problem with them falling out. Brendan wanted him to sign an NDA. At that time, Malik and Chappelle were laughing at him behind his back and talking stuff. Maybe Brendan was getting a bit paranoid that they may expose some certain things. I don't have a problem with them falling out personally. But I do have a problem with allegedly Brendan taking money out of his pocket and stopping him from doing shows. That's some real scumbag shit. That's some real scumbag shit.
Ha was the only club because he'd do Brendan Schaub and Friends at the Ha. And he was like, all right, I'm going to still book you. And then I had like my own headline date. My first headline date where I got with him in Austin, Texas. They canceled my show.
Wow.
Use promo code TFU.
That's fucked up, man. That is really fucked up. That is really fucked up. So this must have been the thing he was talking about from early. Remember when he first got booted from TFATK? Because he handled it horrible, to be fair. He handled the whole getting fired from TFATK horribly. I remember when he got first booed, you came on a Reddit or he made a post saying, if you want all the gossip, if you want all the fucking news and the information, you have to run up my subscribers. I think at the time he had like 50,000. Give me 100,000 subscribers and I'll tell you what happened. Everyone was like, we don't care that much. We're not that invested in it. Yes, we're watching a shit show, like myself. I want to see how it ends. I always get some comments on my videos, right? I'll get some comments on my videos like, oh my God, I can't believe you're still talking about Brendan. Move on already. Move on. Get a life. I can't. I'm too heavily invested. You know, like when you're watching a TV show that's terrible. You know, like you're watching a shitty TV series and you're already like 6 seasons in and the season and it's like 25 seasons. You can't give up. You're already 6 seasons in. You might as well just finish it and see how it ends. So in this case, I'm curious to see how the Brendan Schaub story ends. Does he go out with a whimper? Does he go out fucking selling sporting? Does he go out and have to work in a sporting goods store? Does he have to? Does he turn into a fucking personal trainer? Does his wife leave him for another richer guy or a black dude? Like, what happens? I'm really fucking curious to see how it ends. But I don't think any of us are super invested to the point where we're gonna go to Malik B's channel and we're all gonna subscribe and we're all gonna take him from 50,000 subscribers to 100,000. He overplayed his hand. He really overplayed his hand in terms of the Brendan Schaub stuff. But I think this is what he was kind of hinting towards. Like, oh, I've got some really sick news, some really crazy news. This guy's a scumbag. You wouldn't believe this. I think he was hinting towards this kind of black bullshit. Because this is really fucked up. Because the way him and Brendan fell out, yes, it's not great, right? Brendan tried to make him sign an NDA 7 months into working. Cool. But I understand Brendan being a little bit anxious and scared and stuff. Cool, you do what you gotta do. But Brendan allegedly blocking him from all the clubs in LA or whatever, sucking him from getting booked in certain places, blackballing him effectively. That's some real scumbag shit that should be called out. You know, that should be really called out. Brendan should have to kind of answer for his crimes in that regard. But he won't. His friends won't hold him up to it. He will pretend like this won't happen. He won't say nothing about it, even though I'm sure he saw this clip. It went super viral. I'm sure he saw this clip. He won't say nothing about it, act like it didn't happen. But I hope somebody asking a question on the Q&A show, though. I hope somebody in the Q&A show asks a question regarding Malik and he has to answer it. I hope that happens. I doubt it because Chin's the one that picked his questions and Chin's fucking got the spine of a fucking jellyfish. But it would be nice if somebody reached out via the questions and said, hey, do you see a clip of Malik? Is it true that you blackballed him? Because again, forget the personal stuff. I think the personal stuff is what it is. They had a personality clash. Maybe Brendan didn't like the fucking cut of his face, the color of his skin. I don't care what it was. Whatever personality thing they had, I don't give a fuck about. But Brendan allegedly blackballing him in the industry, that's some down, rotten shit. But I could be wrong. Yo, big up Josie. Well, go on, Josie. What's that? Scumbag enough for you to finally want him to lose it all? Yeah, I'm invested 100%. Big up B Mallory. Did he really have comedy clubs doing his biddings? I don't know if that Paul like that. Yeah, but that's the thing though. To have Paul in the comedy club isn't that difficult. Now I'm thinking about it. I think I'm putting too much sway in the comedy club pool. Because to have Paul in the comedy club, you just got to sell tickets. And I think with how we've done this show, right, of how I've done this show over the years, I think most of you guys have seen, although I think some of you guys are more comedy fans than I am or vice versa, you've seen over the years that comedy isn't that great. The standard of comedy isn't that great. So if standard of comedy isn't that great, I would go as far as saying most clubs probably don't sell that many tickets. Most clubs are probably running on a loss. So when somebody like Brendan comes along who's got a little bit of a celebrity, he's got popularity behind him with his podcast, I'm assuming Brendan at that heyday, when he was bringing those guys on the road, he was probably selling a decent amount of tickets. He was probably selling out certain venues. So in the comedy industry, in the comedy business, if you can sell tickets, you're already in rarefied air. You're already in rarefied air. You're already one of the fucking 1%ers if you can already sell tickets. So I think immediately if you can sell tickets, that gives you some sway, that gives you some power, some influence in comedy clubs, because you selling tickets is basically keeping this club alive, keeping the business running, supporting people, paying people salaries and shit. So that would give you sway instantly. Even if you're a fucking piece of shit. Even if you're a piece of shit person, if you sell tickets and you attract a crowd, they're gonna do your bidding. If you say no Malik, don't give Malik any avails, they're not gonna give him any avails because they wanna satisfy you. Because you sell, especially if you sell more tickets than Malik. If Malik sold more tickets than Brendan, it's a different story. By that point, Brendan was probably selling more tickets, especially with these Joe Rogan, especially with these Brendan Schaub and Friends show, where it's him and a few other comedians who have their own kind of following. So yeah, I think that's where the influence comes from. And obviously I'm assuming as well, partly as well, the Joe Rogan influence also plays a factor. These comedy clubs want to get in bed with Brendan, no pun intended, because they're hoping that maybe if they get in bed with him, that might lead to Brendan maybe getting Rogan to go to that club. You know, it's a very it's a stretch. It's a stretch, I understand, but I'm sure some comedy clubs or some people in general were friends or befriended Brendan with the sole purpose of maybe this could lead to me getting introduced to Rogan. Maybe this could lead to me being on Rogan. Yo, big up Black American, Wagwan Queen, big up Black American. I think Brendan could have had Paul with Rogan and Callum Paul behind him. Exactly what I just said there in the end. He likes saying that he has friends in dark places, so he seems like the kind of guy who would use the influence for that. For sure, that's what I just said. Yeah, for sure. I believe that to be true too. Comedy scene is not that hard to get influence if you're selling tickets. Plus, Brendan has the fucking, you know, the ace in his fucking cards to say that, hey, yeah, I've got Rogan on my speed dial. Brian Callen's got obviously influence with the time he's been in comedy. So yeah, I can see that happening. But I feel bad for Malik, man. But I don't feel bad for him saying, oh, I should have been getting more money. Like, what? How is Brian getting 50 and I'm getting 3? What does Brian getting 50 have to do with you? It's Brian's show. Of course you'd be getting 15. If anything, I bet you Brian still gets underpaid. I bet you because Brian gets 15, I bet you Brendan gets like 35, you know? That's the funny thing. So Malik thinks Brian is overpaid, or Malik thinks Malik at that time thought he should be paid the same as Brian for his contribution. Because I guess in Malik's head, to be fair to Malik, I guess in Malik's head, he's saying to himself, I'm covering for Brian. Me and Chappelle are covering for Brian while he's going through his rape allegation. You should probably be paying us more to cover for this guy because we're covering for him because he's got really bad PR. And that bad PR is rubbing off on us. So we're taking a big risk by standing next to you. But again, negotiate that. Negotiate that. You can't just start and then 7 months in say, oh, I should get more money. They should negotiate it like, hey, you're bringing us in because you need us. You can't do a show with Brian. At that time, Brendan couldn't do a show with Brian because the sponsors were threatening to leave. They were threatening to cancel their sponsorships. And TFATK survives on sponsorships, right? They don't make that much money on AdSense at all. They probably make us, you know, about 1,000, 2,000 something on AdSense. They don't make that much money on AdSense whatsoever. So they probably survive all on fucking sponsorships. So Brendan couldn't do a show with fucking Brian. He had to find new co-hosts. So he picked these guys, Malik and Chappelle. They were young. They were funny. They brought a different dynamic and energy to the show in the beginning. So Malik should have negotiated in the beginning, hey, I'm taking a big risk to my reputation by standing next to you, by sitting next to you, by being on the show here with you, because Brian Callen's currently not here because of his rape allegations. So I feel like I should be paid more than $3,000 a month. Maybe $5,000, maybe 10. But you can't say it 15 or so, or 8 months into the show, and you also can't say, oh, because Brian Callen gets 15, I should get the same. It's his show though, of course you're not going to get the same. Of course you're not going to get the same. Big up Coelho, we know Chin doesn't even get a split. Now Chin gets paid. That's the thing though, I don't know, man. You guys are giving me the fucking heebie-jeebies and you're kind of spinning my head with the Chin stuff.